Herentals. Just kidding. Preride of Herentals. I'm going to mess that up no matter what. So this is obviously the start-finish straight. My GoPro turned on a little bit late, so we missed the cool little archway, but that's okay. We don't really need to see that. So it was a pretty much longer start straight than yesterday, which is nice, but not good for me because I lost some positions. Right-hand turn, transitioning onto this mud. The mud right now during this pre-ride lap is still pretty wet, and it was just pissing rain as we were pre-riding. And then when the men went, I feel like it was raining even more, and the mud went from kind of wet to somehow like half wet and half dry. It was, I don't know, the traction changed quite a bit. But first lap, that's always sort of a crap show when you go into the mud. Do you want to be on the right, the left, the middle? Basically, the question is, where are people going to mess up first? So immediately we're going past pit one, and now we're making this left-hand turn into what we're calling the whoops section. My first time through this, it was almost a walk, because in between all of these, you see these puddles. You're never quite sure what's under the puddles, so sometimes you're aiming for the deepest part and hoping there's nothing underneath. This one caused a bit of a struggle because there was a huge splash, and there was rocks on the upside of that hill that you were hitting if you were taking it with enough speed to really pedal nicely. So had to find the line with the fewest rocks, but still smooth enough to be able to have enough momentum to make it down and back up comfortably. This turn was a lot muddier during the race, but it was pretty straightforward there. And again, the crapshoot of which side is going to be easier to pedal, the left, the right, the middle. In the race, the right side held up a lot better, so I stayed right, but it made that right-hand turn up this hill a little bit trickier, harder to overshoot. Now we're entering a bit of a mountain bike section of the course, twisting around through these trees where they've kindly orange painted the stumps so that we don't run into them. It seems really obvious when it's just you, but when you're in first lap traffic trying to navigate, it's nice when you come behind a wheel to be like, oh God, there's a stump there, don't want to hit it. So down off that little hill and turn into this mud, and it's a little bit sloggy, but off that hill it's easy to keep your momentum if you're not afraid of the mud, and it makes this little climb a little bit easier. Now here, there's ruts that you can't see in this, so that puddle right there that I just went through, it got deeper and deeper and deeper as the race went, and during the race I actually hit the puddle, lost my front wheel, like not out from under me, it just went so far into the puddle that I just got ejected from the saddle. I landed on my feet and could run up the hill, but I definitely was taken aback, and I kind of tried to manual through it the next few times that I went through. This corner, again, just filled with puddles, and ruts started forming, and it's very mountain bikey. And, obviously we can't have a clear lens for the whole time because I haven't had enough money to hire somebody to sit on my top tube and squeegee off my GoPro lens. And this course requires a lot of concentration and dexterity, so I sort of forgot about the GoPro every now and again. But right now we're climbing up a little right-hand turn, still climbing up a section here, but I took a second to wipe off the lens. Left-hand turn, and this is going to be a descent, and it doesn't look that difficult, but there's a lot of hidden roots and rocks, and again, every time you see a puddle, the question is this like a nice gradual slope, or is this a giant wheel-eating hole? This is a bit of a steeper downhill than what it looks like here on the camera. And here we flatten out and we're sort of entering into civilization again, crossing a little bit of pavement, and we're going to take the time to take some flat turns, which is a nice reprieve for the mind after that little mountain bikey section. Get a little bit more cyclocrossy here, but those turns, they were pretty slick, so you couldn't exactly relax totally. Although I should have relaxed, and it probably would have helped me on those turns. Now we're entering, I don't know, I wish I had a cool name for this part. I call it the sloggy section of doom. This is another section that during the race, the ruts just got deeper and the puddles got deeper, and it was like, I don't know, I hope my wheel goes into it and it comes back out again. So the mud here, it looks pretty easy to pedal, but this is a section that despite the rain and the people riding it, some of the sections in the race got somehow easier. This section got heavier and harder to ride. in this section here, it looks really wide. I mean, you have like, I don't know, 6 meters? I don't know meters. It's a really wide part of the course, but I think everyone rode this line right here. And this puddle is huge. You can't see how deep it is, but it was, your feet were in the puddle as you're pedaling. But this is just one of those times where, I don't know, despite all of that real estate, there was just one solid line that people were taking. And this is actually a little bit of a humped section here, and I'm riding the crest, and you don't want to fall off either side or it's easy to tumble down. But after the men pre-rode, there was a bit of erosion and some roots popped out, so you had to ride the hump, but also hop over the roots. Sorry about the mud here. Oh, and I just hit a girl eating hole. And so the left, there was a puddle, and obviously sometimes you want to aim for the puddle and it helps to clean off your bike. But that time the puddle, I don't know, it was hiding some sort of divot, maybe like a troll or something lives there. So I tried to remember that that's where that hole was and to stay right. And if you were able to stay right, you could hold momentum through the mud and pedal out. But if you got stuck in that hole, it was really hard to hold your momentum and pedal through that mud. And sticking it in the middle, as the puddle got bigger, you couldn't tell where the actual hole was. So it was best just to stay as far right as possible. Now we're going to take some flat turns, and I think maybe we'll go by the pits. I don't really know. This course was really long. In the race, the women only did 4 laps, and I was expecting 4 laps, and I thought maybe we could get 5, but I think they were 11-minute laps. Little section over some pavement, going into a right-hand turn. This is probably the only turn where I felt confident. Not this one, though. This one was slippery. I don't like the tight turns. Take it wide enough, and I think you shoot into the pits, and looks like I'm going into the pits. Oh, I think I'm going to drop 1 PSI. This season I've been starting pre-rides on about 1920 PSI, and that seems like a good standard pressure for me oh, I didn't go down to PSI, look at me. I already had. Oh, I think I went in to look for my mechanic, and he went home to eat a sandwich because he thought I was done because the laps are taking this long. This is my 2nd lap. Anyway, so I settled on not 1920, but 1819 for pressure. This is the one little section of sand on the course, but it's about the only sand I can handle because it was wet and packed down into a nice berm. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a rut. It was literally a foot wide packed down, just trophy section. In this right here, we're going under the timing mat for those bathroom timers. I don't really know what's going on with this series. I'm not a series contender. Heading up towards the planks here. And of course, a lot of women, more and more bunny hopping those, but I am not. I'm just trying to not trip over them. They were spread really far apart, which makes it kind of difficult for me to hold my bike up that high as I'm running, but I managed. So this section here is really bumpy going through up to the planks, but then you got a little bit of speed coming out of them before you hit this mud. And what's weird about this, I don't know if this time I'll check, but this mud is really heavy, and you're going to transition onto walkway here, but they lined the edge of the walkway with it's like vinyl tubes of sand, but you can't see them because the mud is so deep. So in the race, I just stayed as far left as possible, and the mud was worse, but you were pretty square to go up and over the vinyl tubing. If you hit it at a bit of a camber, it could push your wheel if you weren't expecting it, and when you can't see them, it's hard to pump over it. So I trudged through the mud to hit the pavement sooner. And there was just a lot of transition there to go from mud to grass to gutter to pavement and all sorts of things. So it was a little bit of a reprieve just to lighten up your wheel as you go through those transitions before we turn onto this, not like a chunky cobble, but a nice little cobbled climb. Not very steep, but it felt really, really nice to go up that because you weren't working too hard.
Honestly, that seems to be the start, but I'm not even sure.
I apparently stopped and restarted my GoPro. So we're going up this little cobbled climb here that you could take it any way that you wanted. You could attack on it. You could do what I did, which is almost take it as recovery. Don't mind us. We're not trying to pre-ride or anything. Just go ahead and have your frickin' tractor here. Screw you guys. I'm passing you. And now this is interesting. This is something I've never done before. Riding on a running track. This is strictly verboten in America. We would never ride on what apparently the Brits would call an athletics track. They call track and field athletics. Amira Miller asked me if I participated in athletics as a child, and I was like, that's a vague question. Ironically enough, the answer was yes, because I did do track and field. I would call this a good moment of recovery on the course because we're about to go into a pretty mountain bikey section. This turn onto this was a little bit sketchy because you could hold some speed and there was some mud over. Honestly, I have no idea what the surface of that naturally was. I was always afraid I was going to crash, but I didn't. A lot of transitions there. I think there were some concrete edges underneath all of that mud. So take this plunge, and it's going to be a sharp right-hand turn. The ideal thing was to not hit the fence like I did, but I don't think I expected that turn to actually happen. This is actually cutting to my first lap because I joined the lap halfway through my first time. And here's me trying to ride this like an idiot. This was a run. The thing in the race was at the bottom of that steep pitch. You had to get off of your bike, make the right-hand turn, and shoulder up that steep part, and then it flattened out a little bit, and you were able to get back on your bike and start pedaling. Unfortunately, the camera is a little bit smudgy, but we're going up a moderate camber before we plunge down. Thankful there's nothing in that puddle because we're going up a pretty steep pitch now. This, I don't think I could have ridden if there wasn't a descent into it. But luckily we had some momentum, able to muscle up. We're still going uphill. I don't think I could have ridden this. I have a 40-tooth chainring. If I only had a 32 cog in the back, I'm not sure I could have ridden this, but I'm running a Shimano XTR mountain bike cassette because I'm straight baller. So I have an 1140 cassette in the back. So right now I think I'm in my 40-40 and I'm able to muscle up and over this and checking out what's about to happen, not taking the moment to wipe my lens because we're going down. This isn't super steep, but as you can kind of see, this is extremely rutted out, and there's like erosional ruts down the middle. So it's ruts and roots, and we're going down. It's pretty tricky, and left-hand turn. But here I'm like, hey, people, how are you doing? Are you corona-proof? Just kidding. I'm going to go this way. Ideally, I would have stuck the rut and sort of ejected through the worst part of the sludgy mud, but I locked eyes with the fence, as one often does, and prayed for the best that I would stop. I figured that turn out most of the time. So now this is going to be another run-up, or in my case, a walk-up. It was pretty steep. Don't worry, though. I'm going to clean the lens for you. I'm nothing if not hospitable to my viewers. I just want you to know we're still going up this hill. It's still happening. And now you see some daylight. It looks kind of flat up there. There's a little rut on the right, and there's a bit of a plunge. So there's a quick right-hand turn, and it's there's not a rut, but there are, I don't know, places where people have ridden and braked. There are a few roots, but honestly, it's mostly the mud that you're contending with. And it took me a while to figure this out. But you just kind of have to not have speed at the top. So here, I crashed. I don't know what my issue was the first few times going down this, but I wasn't the only one with issues. A lot of us were sort of standing at the top trying to figure it out. You can see the gaggle of people here at the top. And what I realized was my issue at first was I was trying to go too fast. I ended up watching Ava Lechner go down this and realized that confidence and control was more important than send it! So I realign my bike, and I think I make it down this next time. I think. I don't know. We'll see. I'm seeing with you. I'm watching this live. Oh, nope. I didn't make it. This is, so that fencing, I guess it's not technically snow fencing, but that snow fencing is as close as we're getting to calling this a ski slope.
Weirdly, I can't figure out how to make this turn.
All right, I think I make it this time. But of course I didn't reset the camera, because why would I? But you get a nice look at that WTV saddle nose in that sweet Major Jake top tube. A lot of dabbing, a lot of foot down. I don't know, I mean, like, if you're looking straight at the ground, it sort of makes it look a little bit sendy. So now I've made it to the bottom. You can see the reflection of the LED signs on my pants. My Thunder pants from 7 Mesh. And don't worry, I remembered to reset you. I was thinking of my viewers, despite my embarrassing tumbles down that hill. I will have you know, by the way, that I did not crash at all during the race. I did get a puncture, and I went down all of those hills. I went up all of those hills and down all of those hills with a flat tire. So be impressed with me. So at the bottom of that, it was a pretty innocuous left-hand turn onto this, I don't know, walking path. Is this gravel? Is it paved? I'm not even sure. And there were like trenches that they've dug, probably for wires, and then this transition right here had a lot of hidden rocks. But this is our left-hand turn to the start-finish straight. So this was the start grid, and then at the beginning of the video you saw the finish grid. Anyways, that was a really hectic lap. I'm sure I could have covered it better, but I'm not gonna lie, I only got done racing 5 hours ago. I haven't even showered. But I know you people have been liking these videos, so I tried my best to do it. Anyways, my next voiceover will be of the Dendermonde World Cup, and I'm hoping to get there before the race so that we can all get a preview of this new course before race day, but we'll see if I can finagle that. Anywho, we're just staring at a blurry screen now. This is awkward. Go eat some dinner, or some breakfast, or some lunch, or a snack. Just eat something. Bye.